Hey everybody, Jacob here from the Formula Drift podcast. We have an awesome deal for you. So if you head over to shopfd.com and use coupon code podcast23, you're going to save 20% on any merch. So anything you can find on that website, use podcast23 at shopfd.com. Save yourself 20%. Hats, shirts, lanyards, whatever. Just use the code. Save yourself some money. So why not? You know, don't stop listening. Wait till the show's done. But then head over, shopfd.com. Use podcast 23. We'll see you guys out there. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Outerzone. My name is Jacob Gettins, and today we have, are you the new, besides myself, like the newest person on the FD, that side of the FD staff?
I guess so, yeah. I mean, Robbie's back this year, but he was in this position, 2019? But yeah, I guess you could say in the tower, I would be the newest person, yeah.
Sean Adriano, anyways. So your official role is driver steward, correct?
Driver steward, yeah.
All right. Did you get to pick your name?
No. So, I mean, they brought that position in with, like I said, with Robbie in 2019. I believe that was the first year, and then COVID happened. And so then he wasn't able to travel back. And so they were still looking to find someone to fill that position. It's still relatively new within competition drifting, I guess. So it's as every event goes on, we're still kind of defining what the roles and duties of that position is. So I couldn't really give you, everybody always asks like, oh, so what is that, So it's kind of a long story and like what that entails, I guess. And I'm still not really sure how to explain that to people. Yeah.
I think from my perspective coming in, it seems to be like one of your main roles is like having an impartial input towards the judges when it comes to like the replay, right? Mm-hmm. Because you do control, and I really want to get into that in a little bit, but like you control essentially a replay machine that isn't on the live stream, that is specific to the judges, that shows every angle available, all synced together.
Yeah. So, I mean, part of the, the drivers in the driver steward name, I guess, is kind of bringing the driver's perspective to that position, I guess you could say. So like you said, it's kind of evolved into that. At first, I really didn't want to influence or put any sort of influence in like my, what's the word? I guess, just influence in the judges' decisions. But then it got to a point where, the judges were like, like if you see something that happens on track or, can provide us with any information, we want all the information we can in order to make these calls. So they just, they're people. A lot of people disagree with the judges, but at the end of the day, they do work as hard as they can to make the most fair and just decision. So
yeah. And then I think the other part of your role too, and this is also something I want to like FD to like bring to light a bit more, is kind of mediate when it comes to petitions, right?
Yeah, that's the other big part of the job is handling the petitions, and just making sure everything's kind of going towards the book. So there's a lot of, I guess, politics, and it's almost like like law. You're making sure you have to really reference the rule book a ton and kind of know it front to back, and also, a lot of times, you'll come into situations that kind of fall in between and like kind of in gray areas within the rulebook. So that's the hard part, and that's when when there's a petition that comes up and it's kind of taken a long time. There's a lot of going back and forth with myself, Ryan Sage, the judges, and kind of just deliberating and kind of figuring out like, hey, so like we have this situation that popped up, but the rule wording doesn't necessarily cover that, or what we call the spirit of the rule, which is the wording may not necessarily cover that, but a situation happened where it falls under why that rule was put into place in the first place. So it's kind of a tough position to be in, because you have to figure out, all right, well, now we are kind of uncharted territory. Drifting's been around, FD's been around for 20 years now, but there's still, I guess when you look at motorsports in general, like it's still a really young sport. So there's going to be situations that come up that have never, been brought up before, or it hasn't been covered. So those type of situations, you have to figure out, okay, we're setting precedent now of like what we choose now is kind of what's going to happen in the future. And you also kind of have to play out, all right, there's new scenarios or any sort of scenario like, okay, if this, then that, what about this? What about that? And so we're doing that in the moment during competition. So like, that's really like the crazy part about it, like, so you want to make the most fair decision and also do it in a timely manner and something that could change the course of like the way the sport goes. So that's the pretty nuts part about the job.
Yeah, that tower is far more chaotic. And I know we've like all talked about like what's the best way to document what happens up here, because you're right. There's I said petitions, but protests or whatever you want to call it, like those coming in with a lot of like really valid points at times. And like I think every round this year something has happened that was not defined in the rule book and something has had to change afterwards. Like,
every single round there's things that rulebook revisions that are going out because of certain battles. And like a lot of teams, it may not go the way they planned or wanted it to go or to at the time, but they don't really realize like it wasn't for nothing. That in itself is what's growing the sport. So yeah,
it's good too, because the sport is adapting with different changes in either technology or driving or weather or track conditions or locations.
It's just evolving fast, man. It's nuts.
Yeah. There's been, just this year alone, I think we're on revision 5 or 6. Like it's basically every round something has been implemented in either the judging. And that's the other thing too, is like, is it 3 separate rule books? There's the technical regulations, there's the judging regulations, and then sporting, right?
Sporting, correct.
Yeah. So, and all of those are being updated.
Yeah,
like,
for sure. So, I mean, Kevin Wells, the competition director, he pretty much handles the tech side of things, and that tech regulations and stuff. So that would be what would be more kind of the cars and the safety and the technical side of that there. Whereas the judging regulations was really going to be what I would be covering in my position. So sometimes it dips into sporting regs, but that would be more, I guess you could say, like off-track stuff or out of competition. So it would be more team conduct or things along those kind of lines. But yeah, when it comes down to like the judging stuff, that's going to be the in-competition, how things kind of go and the structure of the actual competition itself.
Yeah. So before we like get in any further, I think it's super necessary to cover a bit of your backstory, because it can more or less like gives people a perspective on why you're in the position you're in, and in my opinion, why your history is so important to the position that you're in. Because maybe from your perspective you don't see it, but from mine I do, because I believe out of everybody in that tower, you have the most recent and relevant FD experience.
I mean, I wouldn't say it's a matter of like me personally and my experience, but I think it's just more of just having someone with what's the word, like that driver's experience in the position, which is why they originally picked Robbie. So someone, like I said, like it's just the driver's steward is someone who can bring that driver's perspective. And I don't necessarily think it's something personally with like my experience, like I said, but as long as someone with that can see things from that driver's side and bring that and make sure that point of view is seen when like these decisions are being made is definitely important to the position. Yeah.
So you had run Pro Spec or it was Pro 2 at the time.
Yeah.
That would have been 2018, 2019?
Exactly. 2018, 2019. Did it for 2 years. Back then I was working with Achilles. So it kind of worked out because I was running the tire program, doing a lot of tire changing. So I was able to work out a deal and transport my car and get tire support and still kind of manage and oversee the tire support area. So that,
gotcha.
It was kind of a no-brainer for me to do it.
how'd you get in with Achilles? Because you came from like America's Tire before that, right?
I did. Oh man, it's actually pretty funny. It was just like no lie, right place, right time type of thing.
That's why we're all here, man.
No, seriously, like it's pretty funny. So I was working at America's Tire at the time, and then when I wasn't working at America's Tire, I was doing I guess kind of like some intern work at a fabrication shop, Design Craft Fabrication. And Gary, the owner of Design Craft, he was the one taking care of Daigo and Robbie's cars. So they teamed up, and he was the one basically on the US side handling the cars for Achilles Radio for that factory team. So I was doing kind of like some intern work when I wasn't scheduled at America's Tire. But I wasn't going to the events at that point. So when I was working at America's Tire, one of my coworkers and I, we actually got the day off early, and that event was the Vegas 2012. So we got off work early, drove all the way out to Vegas, and Gary, like I hit him up. He's like, "Hey, like, can you get us in?" He's like, "Yeah, come out." The tire guy at the time ended up taking off or something. There's something happened with that. I don't know exactly, but they're like, "Hey, we need someone to change tires. Like, are you down to help out?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Like, why not?" Started busting tires for them at that event. Then pretty much after that, just started working with Achilles like every event. Yeah, they just brought me on.
That's crazy.
Yeah, brought me on full time. So, like I said, just right place, right time.
It's all that experience of swapping tires by hand without a machine that prepped you for that day, right?
Oh man, dude, I've changed so many tires. Like I don't even want to change my own tires anymore, man. Like it's like so daunting. Like thinking about it now. But
and the Achilles had a pretty stiff sidewall too, so like they weren't the easiest tire to put on.
They definitely weren't. A lot of like the new guys that I would bring on that would help out for the rounds. Because we ended up doing like, we had like 3 tire machines. It was myself and then like maybe one other guy that was kind of traveling with the team. But then we'd hire like a local guy to help out.
Yeah.
So many times, like just ripped sidewalls or like ripped beads. It's like, oh, yep, this tire's trash. So.
The crazy thing was they weren't. Those 1, 2, 3s are legendary in my mind.
Oh no, yeah, the tires
one
were
of the
good.
craziest.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, tire guy was trash.
Yeah, that's the thing.
That's funny. So then is that how? Like I know you'd kind of seen drifting earlier on. Mm-hmm. I think your mom took you to a show or something.
Yeah.
But like what got you into a car really?
So like I said, back then I was helping, I was working at that fab shop. So a lot of the guys that were hanging around with Gary at Design Craft, they were the same guys that were doing like Just Drip. So they're like the track staff guys. So they're constantly going to Willow Springs at like Balcony, Horse Thief, running like the Just Drip clinic days. And just started kind of going with them, going out to the Willow Springs events and helping staff and whatnot. And then ended up getting like a stock KA S13. I think this was like 2013. And then ASB 2013 was running streets trying to chase down like a SR S13 and like blew the motor on the front straight rods like everywhere. Oh. Yeah. It was good times. Yeah.
That's, yeah. So, and then was it just like hooked at that point? Like once you
pretty much,
got the taste of it?
Well, actually, I mean, the very, very, very first time I drove at the track was Brian Bridges. He had a VQ S13, supercharged VQ S13. Robbie Nishida actually drove it in FD. I think Dean Carney, he ran it for a round or two. But we took that out and just prepped it at the shop and did like a kind of just like a shop fun day with Gary and then the couple of guys that used to work there. And like, that was like first time driving on the track ever. It's like a 700 horsepower supercharged VQ, 1, 2, 3 S's. I'm at Balcony and like totally just beached the thing like all the way up on the hill. Yeah. Like it was pretty funny. Like, I mean, I can laugh at it
Jesus.
now. Back then, I just felt
Yeah.
stupid. But
At the time, you're like, holy shit, like what's going on here?
like every time that picture pops up on my feed, like I just start dying now. But yeah,
was that at Gary's event? Was that at Gary's event at Willow?
No, it was a Just Drift clinic day. Yeah, at a balcony. Yeah, because they used to do like the clinic days and kind of just for fun. You know, they had instructors there, kind of just helping guys out if they wanted, but more just fun drifting. You know.
I did stumble upon a funny photo actually that Gary had posted where you got in third and got a trophy of a toilet paper holder.
That was the
beaching.
Day. So like I said, it was just like a fun day for like all the shop guys. So Gary actually he didn't tell us, but he made these like trophies. And then I ended up getting the toilet paper one. So, I'm gonna ask Gary where that thing is. Yeah,
we should bring that back. That's funny. I could ask, what are you drinking? Is that are you rocking old fashioned or just straight whiskey?
I was just straight whiskey. Yeah.
Okay, ballin'. I had a root beer old fashioned the other day, and it was
interesting.
Wild Turkey 101 Maker's Mark. Okay. And then like
Wild Turkey
sarsaparilla reduction or something. Yeah, it was pretty good, which is good because like the Maker's Mark kind of took a bit of the edge off the turkey. Yeah, it's like wild turkey straight up.
It's got a bite.
Not what I'm here for.
Yeah,
it's not what I'm here for.
For sure.
Yeah, I was gonna say you had I checked your story, so you've had a good day today, man. Like I'm happy you had
So I was just at the coffee shop studying.
Good times.
Yeah, just good times with some wine. Good company, so always. Yeah.
Are you studying for that FAA exam?
I am. It's taking me a lot longer than I wanted to. I didn't really realize when I agreed to do both the U.S. and the Japan side of FD how much traveling and that would entail. But yeah, I mean, at least the book side, I'm trying to stay on top of. But yeah, I just need to start getting in a plane now. You figured you weren't busy enough, you would try and become a small engine pilot? Well, I mean, it was beginning of the year, because I was working at Gretty and like, I decided like I was going to quit working at Gretty and kind of like phase out of the industry, the car industry and move into commercial aviation, which, I started out the year pretty strong, was, at the coffee shop every day. And then, I got, Mr. Iwata from FD Japan, he had asked, if I would judge a few rounds this year. And then, Chris Ewell, Lantain, Agert, they were kind of like the plan was for them to kind of do one event each, and then I would kind of just fill in for them. But the way things planned out, like, they couldn't make it to certain rounds or whatever. And then now it's ending up like I'm doing the whole season in Japan. So that kind of took up a lot of my time, which, it's, like, I'm grateful for the experience, it's dope. But personally, I hate judging. Like, it's such a terrible position to be in. Like, any call you make, there's going to be someone that loves you and someone that hates you. But you're only dealing with the people that hate you. The people that love you, like they're cool. They're not going to say anything. You're only dealing with 100% of the time is the people that disagree with that position. So yeah. And it's tough. Like, as a driver, you're always going to think that you're in the right. And I mean, there are certain drivers and certain times where, like, you've screwed up and there's no way that you won that battle. But, like, if there's any doubt or any semblance of, like, I won that in your mind, you're going to push to try and convince people for sure. Otherwise. And I mean, like, that's the thing is, like, I've been a driver. I've been part of teams. I think that's one of the ways, or one of the things I try and approach this position with is, like, I don't hold anything against the teams and drivers in the moment, because, like, I get it, you get caught up in your emotions sometimes, like things get kind of heated. So I just try and keep it as cool as possible. If I have to, like, hey, go take a deep breath. Like, we'll talk about this later. This is what's going to happen. But, like, you can kind of tell when people are getting a little bit too worked up, and it's just, I'm not going to hold it like against them. So yeah, it's just part of the game, I guess. Yeah. And most of them are fine afterwards. Like, most of them come around 100%. Pretty quick and don't have any issues. So yeah. And I mean, a lot of times too, they'll come back later and just like, hey, like, our bad. We just, we got a little heated there. It's like, dude, I get it. I know how it is. 100%. Like, no hard feelings.
You've been to, like, outside of even judging, you've been to Japan like quite a lot.
Yeah. So I think,
what?
yeah.
Yeah, has that become jaded for you yet? Like, is it like I've never been, so for me it's still this like great pilgrimage to go.
So
right?
jaded in the sense of like what?
Is
Like
it?
in what
Are you
regard?
like, oh, I got to go back to Japan, or is it like every trip you're kind of like, oh shit, here we go, like
I
vending machines?
try and like keep myself, excited about it, but it is kind of like, oh man, like I got to go back to Japan at some points just because I'm not there for very long each trip that I go out.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, oh, it's more just get in, airport, hotel, track, airport, and come back home. So it's not like we really have much time to actually like do other stuff than just the judging or working side of things. So yeah, I guess that's really what would be more the jaded part, I guess.
Is there like, obviously going from like hotel track back and forth, is there like any one thing that you always try and do when you're in Japan though, as like a, I've always tried to find, like, I try to like find a coffee shop whenever I'm traveling, and just like as a big coffee person, like I'd like to go find one. Is there anything like that for you?
Not really. I mean, I'm not really like a picky person. Like just being out in Japan for me is just kind of enough. Like, because Robbie will always be like, oh, we'll have the Sunday or Monday afterwards, or like after the event. It's like, hey, so is there anything you want to do? Blah blah blah. I'm like, dude, I really don't care. Like I'm in Japan, so anything that happens is like, yeah, like it's just kind of cherry on top type of thing, I guess. There is a ramen spot that Robbie goes to by his house. That's like probably the best ramen I've ever had in my life. So I guess that would be the one thing.
Damn. I'm putting that on the list. I'll bug Sage and be like, listen, I think I need to go to Japan. I need to broaden my horizons.
Yeah.
Do some interviews over there.
Dude.
Get some ramen at Robbie's. Yeah. Yeah. We'll see. It's funny because like people always, I'm sure you get this too, but like, oh, it must be so cool. You get to go to like all this travel and stuff. And they don't realize that you're literally in between, like you said, hotel to track. Like there's very little time to actually go and explore and do something cool unless you've really set that out, aside of
yeah. I mean, and like sometimes I'll stay a day. I'll stay a day extra, like go in a day early, but it's
okay.
It's not really like a common thing just because of the way like the US side works out. Because like I said, this year's just been back to back to back to back. So like I think this past week is the first time in like 4 months since the beginning of the season that I've been home more than like 3 days in a row.
Wow.
So it's like, it's nuts, man. I pretty much come home, unload the bag into like the washer, do the laundry, throw it right back in the bag, and then I'm out the next day. Yeah. So it's like, it's been a lot.
Yeah.
Let me adjust.
That's wild. And that's all good. I also don't think a lot of people realize just the amount of time at the track too. Like I mean, you take like St. Louis is a good example of that, of like the sheer number of hours that you're there. And like there's downtime, but there's really not that much downtime. Like if you're not actively in the booth, you're still somewhere else at the venue discussing drifting.
I mean, like that's the thing is like, when live stream isn't on, it's not like you're just kind of chilling or whatever. A lot of times it's, there's a driver's meeting. Or most of the time when it's pro and pro spec, we end up kind of having like this overlap, or like, even if it's not overlapping, you'll have 5 minutes to get from where driver's meetings being held to the opposite side of the venue. You know what I mean? So like, it's just nonstop. But I don't know. I kind of prefer it that way. I guess, when you're just sitting around and not doing anything, that's what really gets tiring. Or at least like when you're kind of busy and you're just going, you don't really realize how tired you are until like you actually sit down at the end of the day, get to the hotel, and like just pass out. So
yeah, what I think has been the most interesting is how little conversation there is outside of drifting. Like it'll be like the quick, like, oh, what have you been up to? But like that almost always
like
is
as
somehow
far as
tied to drifting.
topics. Oh
Yeah,
man, dude, like ask Robbie. Like we always end up just talking about drifting or like what can be improved or like certain situations that happen. Like we're just nonstop talking about drifting itself. So yeah, trying to kind of get away from that.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I think it's good though in a way because it allows for such like open dialogue. Like people think like, oh, they just come in and do their job and leave. It's like, no, man, like the entire time it's going back over either the last set of battles, or you're talking about the last round, or you're talking about like historical things, or, oh, hey, have you been watching this series? Have you seen this guy doing this thing? Like it's we're constant.
We're always trying to improve. If there's any room for improvement, why not discuss these things? You never really want to get comfortable with where you're at, I guess, or at least for me, like we always want to keep pushing the bar, like if there's any sort of situation that comes up that's like, hey, we're able to get through this, but I noticed this could be a problem in the future. Like we should be discussing those things, Yeah. So that's kind of what takes up a lot of our time, even outside of the events. You could ask Robbie. We're just constantly talking about drifting. So
yeah, you and Robbie seem pretty close. Like you guys have known each other for quite a while. Well, obviously, like from the Achilles days is probably when that started, right?
Robbie's probably one of the closest friends I have in drifting. Even it's turned into outside of drifting as well. He's helped me out a lot over the years and passed down a lot of knowledge to me, and just like it's definitely a relationship that's grown over the years for sure.
Did you drive one of his old cars, like his old S13 or something, or is that where you had demoed that car
in Japan?
I know you like brake checked him in his own car at one point, but I wasn't sure it started, if there's anything in the US.
Not in the US. I mean, I bought a car for him in the US and then sold it. I've driven a ton of his cars and broke a ton of his cars in Japan at Ebisu, but we've done quite a bit.
Like thinking back, you're like, I've driven quite a few of his cars.
I've blown up S13s, crash cars of his. Yeah, it's been a good time.
We probably shouldn't like rack up that bill. We'll leave it as is.
No, I definitely.
That's good though.
I definitely owe a lot to Robbie for sure. So
I don't know him well. Like I obviously am. Yeah, for me, obviously, like being the new guy, I kind of feel bad for you guys in a way of me kind of like coming in because, as you're already aware, I'm incredibly inquisitive. I ask for
at least
an
on my end,
amount of questions.
It doesn't. It doesn't bother me because like you're able to bring us on and like kind of tell this backstory or, give like a lot of this information to the public that they wouldn't normally see. So there are times where it gets kind of like nuts, but like as far as that, like I'm always down to chop it up and answer any sort of questions with you.
I think I've only been told once of like, okay, hang on, you need to step back for a minute. We got to deal with this, and then we'll answer your questions.
The one time in St. Louis, there was like things were getting a little crazy, but it wasn't like trying to. It's just there's a lot going on, but. Yeah,
it was fine. I realized afterwards, like, oh yeah, they're dealing with a lot. I just have to sit here and absorb. They actually have to like deal with the situation.
That's the crazy thing with, dealing with protests and stuff in competition is like most of the time it'll go pretty smooth. But
that
I swear,
was not.
once someone brings a protest, it's like, dude, it just opens a floodgates. It's like one after the other, nonstop, and we're just like, dude, like. You can just spread this out over like the whole event.
I will bet you, what would you say, 15 protests out of every battle, like almost every other battle, there's at least, maybe not like a fully submitted protest, but at least somebody coming in to discuss and see if they could protest.
But so like that's the other good thing about this position, or having the driver steward, is, I mean, you and I had talked about it before. Like a lot of times there's there's this disconnect on information and what actually is going down, and like why the judges decided the way they did on the calls. So by having the driver steward position there, the teams and drivers and spotters, you leave that open. There's like a direct line of communication where they're not intruding on the competition or whatever, or able to get that information for them and kind of just pass that along the line and like let them know like, okay, this is why, like, we understand your concern, but just know that the judges didn't decide off of that. It was this, and that, whatever. And then most of the times, you know, what would have been a potential protest turns into, okay, we didn't realize that. Like, all right, we're good, type of thing. So it kind of diffuses that right on the spot. Whereas before it would have just been like, you know, they're already filling out the protest forms, and then like now you got to deal with all of that rather than just giving a simple explanation and then it's dead in the water right there.
Yeah, it definitely speeds that part of it up because, like I said, there's probably, let's say 15 occasions where somebody comes in, wants to discuss your decision. Yeah. And then I think actual filed paperwork, 6 or 7.
I wouldn't even say that per event. I'd say, I mean, there has been events where there's been like 6 or 7 protests. But I'd say on average, maybe 2 or 3.
Okay, where money will
go. Yeah, that'll actually go through. But yeah, there's only like a few events, at least in the past 2 years that I've been doing it. That's like, 6 plus protests in one event.
It's a lot of just clarification, which like from the team's perspective, I understand because they're like, okay, if we lost, we want to know why. And you know, I think we're all aware.
That's understandable. You know?
Yeah, 100%. I would want that too. Like I would want it like, okay, I'm clearly not understanding your decision. Can you please just clarify? And I would say 9 times out of 10, the teams are usually pretty cool with what it is. They may not be happy, but they look at it and go, oh,
but
okay,
I mean, like at least, you know, like, because that's the thing, you know, this is a judge sport. So you could disagree with the decision. That's going to happen no matter what. But I guess my goal is at least to be as transparent as possible. So it's like, at least teams can understand they have all the information on why that call went the way it did. You could agree with it. You could you could agree or disagree. That's, you know, on you to decide, but at least just make sure you have all the information first. So that's kind of just my aim.
Yeah. So like getting to that, what I have found, so my perspective on how the sport is judged, like changed to an insane degree after I was in the booth, even just for the first round. Like I kind of sat in Long Beach and I didn't really, like I kind of kept my distance. I kind of looked around, but it was really Atlanta when I was standing there watching replays over and over again. There is so much that is caught in camera angles that they're just either not swapping to, or, you know, you have the ability with what, I don't know, what, do we have a name for that machine that you use?
I don't know. We just keep on the replay machine, but yeah, there's not really
the replay machine. We got to like give it a name or something, like Rachel. I don't know. But like, you're able to like literally frame by frame by frame go forward or backwards with all usually 4 camera angles that are all synced up.
So I mean, I could throw up a
if you want to, if you want to throw it up.
See if I could do this.
But I guess I'll talk through it while you work on that. But like that alone completely shifted how I saw it, because a lot of the times, like when we're watching it at home, we get one replay. We might, you know, we usually get a second, or we'll see the run, we'll get a replay, and then from there, you might get an additional one if the judges call for it, or a side-by-side. But most of the time, what is happening during the live switching doesn't always cover some of the stuff you guys are able to pull up with the replay machine.
So like that's the biggest thing that people don't really tend to, even drivers themselves, like you just said, when you're watching the live stream, it cuts at certain points. So, you know, every time it cuts, your perception of what's happening in the battle needs to readjust on what perspective, you know, you're seeing. So during that time, there's kind of a disconnect on what happens in the run, which a lot of times coincidentally is where like the time in question or like the mistake or whatever happens is where it's at, like right where they cut it. But if you're watching the full run from each view from start to finish, 0 cuts, you can focus on, okay, I want to see this drone view, or I want to see camera 1 or camera 2. So by having that, it's not, you don't have that kind of readjustment when it switches angles, which is where you kind of miss where things happen. So actually Travis Reeder came up in Atlanta, and I think it was during the break or something. And then he's like, we're just chopping it up or whatever. And he's like, oh, hey, so you're like, if you have some time, like what was up with this call? And I was kind of just like, oh, well, yeah, let me just pull it up real quick. Showed him. He was able to watch the whole thing from start to finish. And he was kind of just like, oh, okay, never mind. Like, it did not look like that on live stream. He's like, I totally get it now. So those are the kind of things that I wish we could. I mean, I think we're discussing on how to get to a point of showing what the judges are reviewing into the live stream, hopefully. I'm not 100% sure, but if we could get to that point, I think it would clear up a lot of the issues, or not issues, but the question on like why. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's just the lack of the information available, I guess, to everybody else, or what was used to justify those calls, I guess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is the screen sharing working? We didn't even practice this ahead of time.
Yeah, we didn't. I could throw something up.
There we go. Cool.
There it is.
First time doing this. So cool. Yeah. So this is Jeff Jones. For anybody listening at home, this is why you jump on the YouTube part. 1, to watch me talk with my hands a bunch, but also for this. This is Olsen. That one was Olsen and Jones.
Oh, here's the actually the James Dean and Thorne one. I'm sure a lot of people have questions about that. Oh, this is the replay. This actually isn't a good example because it's not showing. Sorry about this. Let me find another one.
We'll clickbait that. Yeah, that, and I mean that's a prime example of one.
All right, so basically you see here, like you have every single view from start to finish, and then you can pause whatever, go frame by frame with that machine, slow motion, and just run that back as many times as you want. And whereas previously the judges are kind of like waiting on production, because you can't really just cut production and do your thing whenever you want. It's kind of just, all right, let's wait for that view to come back around. Whereas now production can do their thing and we can actually just do things separately, but you don't always get that information across to the public. So that's kind of what we'd like to change.
Yeah. So, I mean, I guess like getting back to that, the replay and like how to communicate that with people. I mean, I think it'd be cool to have like a secondary stream almost for the nerds that like allows that, where we could find a way to like communicate that with the fans, but it would be tough.
Yeah. I mean, and it's just being able to, I mean, it's one thing to actually have this at the judge's disposal, I guess, and be able to implement this and have this as a reliable tool for the judges to use. And that's helped a ton. But then now we're kind of at the point of like, all right, the proof of concept is there. It works. Now, how do we kind of implement that and streamline that into production? So there's just kind of two different worlds trying to work together. And that's the thing a lot of people don't realize with FD kind of behind the scenes is like, there's a lot going on. I mean, you've seen it in the tower. With just the stream, the judging, production side. I mean, even Jared, like, I don't know how Jared does it, but like he has somebody in his ear, like on the production side, is like constantly talking to him. Plus he's like listening to, the co-hosts and everything. And it's like all this stuff that's going on. So like, it's nuts. It's like it's a circus, man, for sure.
Yeah. Like, I have very briefly like sat in for it, and they'll like count you into like, okay, and then we're going to transition into this ad read, and we're going to talk about betting, and then we're going to go to this, and like, okay, double replay and you're trying to like think and talk and listen and somehow try and be like in the moment. And I'm like, dude, this is so much harder than I originally thought it was going to be.
I definitely have a lot of respect for Jared because he does his job well. So
yeah, but yeah, I think I know. I don't want to like promise anything to people listening, but like one of the concepts that we had discussed was like a post show with the judges to go over stuff. And I think we're still like working out the logistics of how that needs to happen. Cause that also means like changing people's flights and like making sure we have that machine ready to go and we have talking points ready to go. And we have, everybody mic'd up. It's one of those like, yes,
it's a
in
lot.
A perfect world. Yeah, in a perfect world, 100%. We just do a post show. We talk about the battles that are the most controversial, get the judges to clarify, and we all go home. But like, that's not as easy as what it sounds. Yeah, like it's incredibly difficult.
Like the idea, it'll sound easy, but getting that into reality is there's a lot. So.
Yeah. I know the other one that we've toyed with was like giving the judges like a voice recorder just to be able to like leave some notes that we could come back. But then even still, cool, I have all these notes, but then am I the person speaking on their behalf? Do I just like play the notes? Like
that's the thing I don't like too, because it's like in the position that I'm in, like anytime a driver or team comes up, I don't put my opinion, like my opinion doesn't matter. So it's like I have to go straight to each one of the judges and then word for word, just kind of relay that, nothing more, nothing less. Like that's, straight from the judges' mouths. Like that's them. So it's really hard to get them, get their words and kind of out to the public, I guess, without actually having them there. So yeah, 100% get what you're saying.
Yeah, but also like make a show out of it too. Like that's the hard part. Like if there was a way to communicate this with the fans, like how do we fit that into the live stream? I know like a lot of people are like, oh, just cut out all the commercials and stuff. And it's like, well, we still got to pay bills. Like, you can't just cut it.
There's so much other stuff that goes on. That's
yeah,
man.
Yeah, I think one of like one of the big ones for me was in St. Louis during Pro Spec when the rain was going on. That was one of those moments where, well, because like you've got the fans, you've got the chat, you've got drivers, and everyone's like, oh, let's just do it tomorrow. And like in my mind, I'm like, yeah, let's just do it tomorrow, right? Like that's the first thing I think. I'm like, yeah, we'll just do it tomorrow. And then realizing like, oh, we need to make sure that all the staff can be here, that the track is going to allow it, that we have fire and ambulance ready to go, because nothing was supposed to happen in the morning, right? Like,
you were in there, like you saw Sage, like just trying to run through all these things, like it's nuts. Like there's a lot of things behind the scenes that go on that even like people like us that are actually working in FD still don't realize a lot of the time,
Yeah, it's just
like even just like, it makes the most sense just to do that. But then you're just like, oh yeah, but this, that, these people, this crew, there's so many different crews that are working within.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, like FD is just compiled of a bunch of different, sections of people doing their own thing, not doing their own thing, but like, each department. So getting everybody to work and just things work seamlessly, like that's not an easy job. So
yeah, it is truly like amazing how well the show operates, like with everything kind of put against it. Like,
for sure.
It's definitely like a duck, we're like on the, I mean, especially because like the duck was such a superstar in St. Louis, but like, cool and calm on the surface. Right. And then just like paddling like crazy below it. But yeah, it's been interesting. What for you when you like, I guess, cause you went right from Pro 2 driving, into this role, what was like your big realization or wake up call when you got in there and you're like, oh shit, okay. Put you on the
I don't know. I guess kind of just what we were talking about is just I didn't realize how many moving parts there were within the series, but then I also didn't realize, I'll say it like back then, it's just like. On the team side, it's just like, oh man, the judges, they don't know what they're talking about. Like the blah, blah, blah. Like it's easy to, how do I say that in a nice way? Like talk smack about the judges. But then I realized it's like, whoa, like they really do spend a ton of time to make sure, you know, like they're doing their jobs and like doing things fairly. And like, yeah, I guess that's the main thing, is just didn't really realize how much goes on behind the scenes. And you kind of just look at things for at face value and don't realize like, okay, there's much more beyond that.
Yeah, it's super easy to like talk shit on them and be like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. And then same thing, being up there and having the opportunity, at least on my end, to be like, hey, like, can you clarify that for me? Like, even I'm still seeing everything. I have the same perspective you guys do, and I'm missing something. And then they're like, oh, yeah, just you missed this part right here where he did this thing. And it's like, and it's honestly, and the level we're at now, it's mistakes people make within like a foot, where like 1 foot of the distance they're traveling was wrong. Like, not that they were a foot offline, there was 1 foot of that zone that they didn't fill perfectly.
Or,
and that's
I mean,
the
you know,
between winning and losing.
calls will come down to a bobble, you know, where like, you know, drifting's, like you said, like this skill and everything has gone so crazy, where like the battles have been so close that it'll come down to this little bobble or this little mistake here, which would be the justification for the call. And it's just like, it's not that one driver messed up or did terrible. It's just, that's what the sport's become. Like it's pretty nuts. Yeah.
So yeah, where do you think this is going? Like, where can you see the sport in 5 years? Because that's something that like we've all discussed like a lot, and I like bringing up because I have my opinions. Like I know some guys want to like slow it down and go to smaller tires. I'm the opposite. Give me like the wildest and craziest show. I'd still like because I love Pro Spec. Absolutely love it. I love what it represents and how it operates, but I want to see, like, unfortunately, unlimited budgets, ridiculous tires, insane builds, because to me, you need F1 to have like time attack. Like those two things need to happen.
So for me, I'm on the side of taking grip out of the cars. Not so much slowing the cars down or whatever, but I just feel like the cars have gotten so gripped up these days that like it's not, I don't know, it sounds like cliche because everybody said it, but it's not really drifting anymore. It's just drag racing, you know, like drag racing while going sideways. Like if I lift off the throttle and the car isn't able to like float, or it'll instantly, you know, like start trying to straighten out. Like for me, like, dude, the car's too gripped up. Like that's way too much. And I think that's one of the reasons that's causing all of these, collisions or whatever. Because it doesn't give the drivers any room for error. So now those, like I was saying before, those little bobbles, it'll come down to that. Maybe not so much in pro, but I do see it in pro spec. It's kind of working against the drivers in that sense. At least that's just how I feel, if that makes sense. Or if a lot of guys were to just kind of take some grip out of the cars, I think they would do so much better. You know, they're able to keep the motor in the power band. They're able to run the wider line and actually stay online versus spending half their run trying to get back online and making all these corrections because the car is too gripped up and they're fighting the car.
I think we see some drivers with that though. Like a Forrest Wang is a great example of like a guy that's traditionally taken a lot of grip out of the car. But I guess I know what you mean, where it's like, cool, we love Forrest Wang's driving style. Now imagine a series where everybody drives like that. Like, could you imagine what that looks like? And arguably, there are series that kind of do that to some extent. Maybe, like, do you think that is more of like the Japan, like somebody who's been to Japan a lot and judged it? Like, is that more of the Japanese style of finesse driving over crazy speeds? Right now, for the podcast listeners only, we're offering $5 off each ticket purchased on Formula Drift website by using FD Podcast when you check out. That is FD Podcast. I don't know if you need a capital, the FD, but try it either way. So head over to formuladrift.com, pick up the tickets, then enter code FD Podcast, get $5 off all 8 events this year. So 20 a season. head over. If you're going, save $5. Might as well.
I say a lot of the Japanese guys are still kind of stuck in the D1 mindset where, you know, you kind of just throw the cars super hard with a ton of angle and they're not really focusing a lot on line. And that's the part I don't like. Like with drifting for me, at least in competition sense, it's line has always come first. If you can't put the car where it needs to be or should be, you really have no point in trying to drive faster with a ton of angle. Like, get the car where it needs to go first, then go faster, then throw more angle. Then, you know, you can start gripping it up so you can drive harder. But it seems like a lot of guys are kind of going backwards where they're trying to drive as fast as they can and drive as hard as they can first, but they're not focusing on the line side of things. Where it's like, you know, at least the way FD structure is, line's a huge part of that, you know, or else, you know, why even have the boxes and, you know, the zones and all of that? Like, if you're just going to ignore it, you know, if you're choosing to drive, speed's not a factor anymore. But if you're just trying to drive as fast as you can, then ignore the line. Then what are you doing? Why are you competing in FD?
What are we here for? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But that's just my opinion, I guess.
Nah, well, hey, look, I'm looking for your opinion. Like, I want to know, and it's cool too because we all have such differing opinions on what we think the sport could be or should be or want it to be. And I feel like FD in particular evolves what it needs to be as it needs to. And you lived through this like very close, like the Daigo era that changed the sport definitively. Both the Achilles, where, hey, I had heard a rumor that Daigo got his own like shipment of Achilles, like they came in a separate truck. Is that true?
Dude, I've heard so many like conspiracy things, but I will say like, no, all the tires like came on the same truck, you know.
Okay.
There's one event where like the factory used like this gold wrapping and then people are like, oh, it's like the gold tires or whatever, but it's just like, I don't know. The factory, I swear they were doing it on purpose, like changing up markings just to mess with us, where we had to like deal with like people like, oh, what are those? What's that? But
they had good marketing, so I could see them just doing it to keep hype around the brand.
No, he never had his own like shipment. Yeah, they were all like the same. I mean, I personally loaded, you know, all those tires in the containers every time they got shipped out to the FD events. So yeah, that's actually I've never heard that one.
Okay, yeah, I guess it's good to know that like there was no like secret container. I really want to remember who told me that.
That's the first time I heard that, but there was a lot of talk.
Yeah,
but that's about all I'm probably going to say about that.
All right, we'll move on. I mean, it must have been cool being around in that era, although based on like, I guess how new you were to drifting at that time, you may not have understood to the same degree of like what was going on. Like, I'm sure you knew. You're like, oh, this guy's here and dominating.
I definitely knew what was going on with the tires. Yeah, I'll no comment on that, I guess.
Okay. I meant more like I wasn't sure if you're aware of like how dominant, you know, Daigo was at that time.
I mean,
yeah.
You know, that's what basically I feel started the horsepower and grip war, you know, after that.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like pre-Daigo, what your average horsepower car was like 600 maybe? Like that was like a high-ish horsepower, 600, 700 horsepower.
4 to 6, yeah.
But then, Daigo comes out with super grippy Achilles 123Ss, 1200 horsepower, and just running everybody's doors. And I mean, like a difference in driving style as well. But I think that did kind of just jumpstart the whole grip and horsepower war. And then now it's just kind of evolved into what it is today.
Where do you think we're kind of at the point now where these tires like just can't keep up with what we're putting them through?
I mean, possibly even the cars too. I mean, like the drivetrain. I think the tires have gotten so good these days. Even your, I don't want to say lower end tire, but
Yeah.
Any race compound is gonna be pretty good. So yeah, like now I think it's starting to break everything in the drivetrain.
Yeah.
So now these cars, like, it's just like kind of like going back and forth, back and forth. Like, all right, cool. Now we got the car to be able to handle this much grip. Now, how do we dial in more grip? All right, now we have a ton of grip. Now let's add more power, and then it's like just like a cycle, and it just kind of evolved into what it's at today. But yeah, I definitely think we could kind of just tame that out a little bit. I think the driving would be much better if we could kind of just get these cars to float a little bit.
Yeah. Any thoughts on your end of getting back behind the wheel, and like, would you ever get back into competition level drifting, or?
I mean, like, everybody asks me that, or asks the same question. I'm not against it. It's just, I guess this, like, I never really started drifting competitively, like with the aim to do FD. It was just kind of the way things played out. I was able to have that opportunity with Achilles, where like they kind of presented that, where it was never even really like a thought to me.
Okay.
Then it was kind of like, okay, now I'd be kind of stupid if I turned that opportunity down. And like, I know I'd be kicking myself 10 years down the line. Like, damn, I should have done it, blah, blah, blah. So it's kind of a thing of like, all right, yeah, like now it's feasible. I'll do it just, for the opportunity. So I don't know. Yeah, I'd rather just kind of drift and drive for fun now. And just help out what I can grow the sport. But other than that, I don't really have any sort of drive, I guess, to like run my own program again and drift competitively. Maybe like a fun competition, like Jeff Jones, like Hot Pit or something like that. Yeah.
It's a lot. I mean, it's been interesting talking to these guys who are top of their game. And I know you see it where it's everything. Like to be at that level, like there is nothing else that matters. Like as shitty as it sounds in a lot of cases, like friends don't matter, family functions don't matter, sleep doesn't matter. Like you're just
like,
there.
Dude, it took over my life. Those 2 years that I was doing it, it's just, that's all it was. And spending everything I didn't have just to get to the next event, So it's, I'm glad to say I had the opportunity to do it, but it's not really like a huge thing for me, I guess.
Yeah. And you had, you had good backing, coming with Boost Brigade, Achilles, Gretty to some extent.
Sparko, and HPS. Like, I mean, there's just tons of support that I had that I'm grateful for.
You had Essa as a spotter, like, arguably, like you had a very, you had a great program. Also, like,
I was definitely fortunate for all that help that I got. A lot of people aren't able to have even a piece of that. So I definitely know that, like, I was fortunate for all of that. Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, I want to make sure that like you're kind of taking some credit. It's very easy to be humble about it. Like I was there. I don't know if you knew this, but like I was there while you were driving. So like I
didn't know that.
Yeah. So I was working with Riley Sexsmith at the time.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah. So I was like, I think you guys battled one time. I remember you and like Brutsky in Orlando having like a weird thing. You like blew a trans up, but he like dumped it in the wall, and like it was wild.
That was an interesting battle. Yeah. Like we still joke about it to this day. Like, hey man, we need to finish our battle. We never got to finish that. Yeah. I mean, there was a result. I ended up moving on, but it was like, man, I don't want to win like that. It's more just a technicality.
Yeah. But I mean, you still put in the effort and the time and the sweat and the tears. And like you said, the money you probably didn't have at the time.
Definitely didn't have.
Yeah, I think that's like that, like the finances around drifting, I think is something that I would like people to be more open about. And I understand why they're not. Like, I'll never force someone to be like, you should tell people what you spent on this thing. But like, I don't know if it's like out of embarrassment or like what it is. Like a lot of people don't talk about how like there are guys who don't drive anymore. I won't name names who I've talked to are like, no, I was financially ruined for years to try and do this one thing.
Oh, definitely. It's definitely easy to, because I mean, I was just talking to Literal about this at Hot Pit, because the homie Jason, he blew the turbo and he's like, oh, I don't want to, borrow someone's turbo and then risk, messing that one up. But it's like you get to a point where like you put in all this time and money already that like when things are going to happen, things are going to break, expenses are going to come up where you kind of have to decide like, okay, am I just going to cut myself off now? Or does it get to a point where you're just like, all right, what's another expense? Swipe it.
What's another $1,000? Yeah.
I already came this far. Like, I'm not going to just give up now. It's like, I'm going to figure out how to do it. So you end up digging yourself into like this huge hole and it sucks, but that's kind of just the name of the game. So yeah.
Yeah.
Gotta just deal with that. Yeah,
I mean, we've all been there. I mean, I like financially ruined myself in my early 20s too. So like we've all done
I mean, even like not even doing it competitively, just drifting for fun.
Yeah.
I was just talking, like me and Robbie talk about this all the time. Drifting is so stupid. You spend all this time, all this money just to throw your car into a wall, break it, whatever. You spend all this money on tires that last 2 laps, 3 laps, or whatever, and you just keep repeating this cycle. It's like, dude, why are we doing this?
Yeah,
I mean, it's fun. There's something about it that keeps us going.
It's super hard to explain too, because like until you've been, unless you like have seen it in person or gone for a ride along, like it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And I've like converted people. I've seen it happen in real time. Right. And it's a great
give them a ride along and yeah.
Yeah. And you're just like my cousin's a great example. Like he really like no interest in racing whatsoever. Maybe a little bit of NASCAR here and there kind of thing. And I took him to the track in like my beat to shit old Thunderbird and
hell yeah.
We turned like one lap and that was it. Committed.
Got the bug. I want it. I want to do it.
He's like, every track weekend you go to, you tell me, I'll be there. Like I'll wrench with you. I'll do whatever you need to do. Oh. He's like, I'll probably never own a car, but I will be at every event that you go and drive at, no matter what. I'm like, okay.
Yeah,
once
you experience it, man, it'll get you.
Yeah.
You gotta be smart, I guess.
Yeah. I think I don't know. You gotta know when enough is enough. But it's super easy just to be like, yeah, what's another $1,000, right? Like I'm already $10,000 in the hole. Like what's another $1,000, right?
Deal with it. Tomorrow's credit card statement is tomorrow's problem.
Exactly. Yeah. I joke about that all the time. Something will happen. I'll be like, man, me from last week was an asshole for putting me now into this problem. Like
it's just kind of how it goes, man. Yeah, we all deal with it.
Yeah. What are you driving now? You've got just one car right now?
So I pretty much sold all. I had a like just fun practice car. We had like stock S13s, stock KA S13s.
It's a champagne one?
Yeah, champagne campaign. Yeah. A few buddies and we all just got stock KA cars and just ripped them around for a couple events, and then they got all it takes is just one person, want more power, and just kind of ruins it.
Yeah.
So they ended up selling theirs, and then I was the only one left with a low horsepower car, and that's not fun. Like if you don't have anybody to drive, it's the most fun you'll ever have driving, only if you have other people to drive with. Other than that, like if you're the only one with low power, you're driving by yourself. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now I just have my daily, which is IS 300. That one's all stock, just wheels, body kit, and a wrap or whatever. And then I traded my Pro 2 chassis for a JZX90, kind of just chassis for chassis.
Okay.
So, I mean, I'm trying to get that one ready for Laguna Seca Grid Life. I don't want to miss a chance to drift that track, So I have the old motor from the Pro 2 car, the 1,000 horsepower built JZ. I just got a Samsonis from ESSA. So going to throw those in. I still have the Ross dry sump. That may not go on before Grid Life, just because
it's a lot of work.
At the time, yeah. I just need to get the car running and make sure I actually make the event. And then later on, I'll pull the motor and get that going. But yeah, the main thing right now is just, I guess, the JZX90. That's kind of my main priority. Yeah.
Nice. That's good. I do love those cars.
Oh yeah, it's probably
Something
one
about
of the best driving cars I've ever driven. You know, I love S
Really?
chassis, but yeah, after I drove JZX90 at Ebisu, like I was sold on it. Like knew it, just like one day I'm getting one. I have to figure out a way.
Is driving there like a holy experience? Like, is it, I've heard people talk about it. Like, I get the feeling with like Irwindale, like being in Irwindale, there's something about that event that just feels different. It's so hard to explain.
Yeah.
But I've heard a lot of people talk about Ebisu the same way.
It is different. I'm trying to think of how I could explain that. I guess, yeah, you know, just everything that surrounds just the vibe, you know, like being in Japan, drifting is just one part of it. But then you also have being like at Ebisu, there's multiple different courses that you can drive. And it's just more just kind of like a chill, carefree environment. That like, dude, I've learned the most driving out there. Just, I guess you're not, there's no pressure, you know, and it's just having fun, especially if you have somebody to drive with. So one of the times I learned the most, I just met this Australian dude. There's Robbie was actually judging at Minami.
Yep.
I think it was, or no, I think it was Minami, one of the other courses. So he let me drive his car, and I was just out there for the event to have fun. He towed out his car. I met this dude from Australia. We're up at North Course, and no lie, just the entire day, just swapping lead chase, just running laps, just hot lapping. And like when you're able to kind of like just do that over and over and over, and then it's like, okay, this next lap, like the last one I messed up on this, let me try and what happens if I do this, or what happens if I do that? Oh, that didn't work. So you're able to develop your skills and try out different things and just grow like super quick. You know, you'll learn so much in one day just by doing that. And, you know, just by having somebody to drive up against that's consistent, and you're not constantly trying to relearn 20 different drivers or what they're doing. And you kind of like approaching with caution. It's like, okay, I know what this guy's doing after a few laps. So it's like, now I don't need to focus on what is this guy going to do. I can focus on like, hey, let me try out different things. That's kind of the main thing, I guess.
Yeah, that makes sense. It gives you that freedom and confidence, and the lack of pressure.
And it's just, exactly. It's just, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It really is. Like you just kind of have to experience for yourself for sure.
Yeah.
So
in Japan, if you're going to get one vending machine drink and one convenience store snack, what are you walking away with?
Oh, that's a hard choice, dude. I'm so indecisive when it comes to that. Like, ask Robbie, man. I'm always, you know, we'll drive, you know, we have like the Umbrella Girls, the FD girls, and then like Kenny and Robbie, we always ride to the track. We'll stop at the convenience store in the morning. I'm always the last one to get in the van. And it's not by choice, because it's like I'll look over and they're already walking out the door, and I'm still browsing like, oh damn, all right, I gotta, you know, wrap it up. Let's see, vending machine. I don't know. There's so many good coffees out there.
Okay.
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot with
I know,
because you got to break it down by like coffee or like tea or whatever.
You can talk to me coffee. We can go coffee. That's my zone. So,
dude, that's a tough choice. I don't know if I could. I'm always getting something different. Yeah.
Okay. Has there been one that like
it's gonna be some sort of
surprise? Is there been one that like surprised you? You're like, oh, like shit, they put turmeric in this. Like that's different.
Not really. I'm always down. Like that's the thing is I always try if I see something that I haven't tried yet, like I want to try it. I'm always trying to like try out something different. So I don't really stick with like that's my go-to. It's more like, hey, is there anything I haven't tried yet? Like if there is, then that's what I'll go for.
All right. So we're very similar in that regard. No, that's good to know. That's how I am too, where I'm like, I've had it. Yeah. That's new. That's the one I'm going to go. And a lot of it, like you get burned, but like,
that's the thing. You also, I mean, and they're so small that it's like, all right, if it tastes like crap, like whatever. I'll still drink it, but I just know
Yeah.
for next time. Convenience store snack. We talking about in the morning, at night, or
yeah, that's a big difference, right?
it is.
We can start in the morning.
All right, morning go-to is the egg sandwich. Can't go wrong with that. Or like, like the combo egg, and they have like the cutlet one.
Okay. Like a pork cutlet?
Yeah, it's like a cutlet. Because they'll have like the combo. They'll have the egg sandwich and then like a pork cutlet or something.
Okay.
There's always different ones too. Yeah, and if I see one that I haven't had, same thing. I'll try it. Yeah, that's pretty much the go-to, I guess, in the mornings. At night, me and Robbie are usually getting some sort of ice cream.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Are you still like a big, like, obviously, like with ice creams, are you still a big fan of the for real make your own milkshakes?
I haven't got those in a while. I did see, I was up in Vancouver a few weeks ago, saw like one of the machines or like for real setups, like for the first time in a long time. Like kind of got happy about that. But yeah, I'm always down for a milkshake, dude.
I remember when they came out, I was like, this is life altering. Like I can just have a milk, like, and they're all over Canada. So I'm like, I can just have a milkshake whenever I feel like it.
Dude, it's funny. So one of the homies that was helping me out with tire changing, like, because that was kind of a big thing with Achilles, like the for real milkshakes or whatever. And this one time he like goes into, I forget where I think we're at like a Waffle House, but he had to like go grab some cigarettes or something at the gas station. He comes out with this bag, like huge grin on his face and like just so proud of himself. And he had like a bag full of the for real milkshakes, but he didn't know you had to put it in the machine.
Oh,
so I'm just like, dude, you got
it's like, useless.
It's like basically useless. So we all like went back over and like made them or whatever. But it's just like funny as hell, man. Like, yeah.
That's funny. Are you okay? So great burger debate. I know you enjoy trying things. Mm-hmm. Tony's, Five Guys, or TK's?
I don't even know what Tony's is. I'm assuming TK. You're talking about like Huntington Beach, Newport Beach TK. Ooh, I'm surprised you know about that. That's a
deep cut.
Yeah, I don't know what Tony's is. Where's that?
Okay. That was another Long Beach one that I think appeared at some point in your feed.
I don't know.
I'll find it for you and send it back. I'll bring back some memories.
I mean, I would say if anything, smash burgers at Good Time would top all of those. But out of those three, I'd go with TK probably. Yeah.
TK's
a good vibe.
Super beholden to Good Times, man. I'm gonna have to go there.
That's the spot, man. Like, I don't know, just the vibe there it's solid. You know, people. It looks cool. I mean, they do like all types of events there, and we actually did like a Cars and Coffee a few weeks ago, or maybe a couple months ago. It's hard to keep track of time these days, but
yeah, for sure.
It's a good time, man, for sure.
Yeah, I'm, and there is that in Long Beach as well.
Yeah, it's in Long Beach. It's probably about 10 minutes from the venue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to try and make I'm coming down obviously like for Irwindale, but then I'm sticking around to head up to Laguna after. So I have like a whole kind of week to figure out what I'm doing. So I might hit you up for some spots.
Dude, hell yeah, dude. Let me know.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm always down for good food, good coffee, I mean, it's been funny now. Like now, the more I've talked about it, like people are like, "Oh, when you're here, you have to go to this place, you have to go to that place," and I'm like, so I'm gonna make like a whole just Google Maps of like all the coffee stops I need to go to.
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing, at least for me, with Good Time is like at the beginning of the year, like I said, I stopped working at Getty, so then I started studying, like doing all the pilot stuff and studying all the bookwork. So it's kind of just a spot to study, but they ended up, like. Dude, that's probably one of the only spots you can get coffee, food, beer, wine, ice cream. Like, it's got everything. They always got good music going on. So,
can I ask? I wasn't aware that you had left Getty. Can I ask? Like, you talked about going into commercial pilot, but like, can I ask why? That's a bold move.
let's see. It was just kind of time. I don't know. For me, I just kind of felt like I was in a stagnant place, I guess. Like
Yeah.
I was kind of needed to change up, and I guess
Yeah.
for more personal reasons, just
That's
to keep
fair.
moving, feel like I keep progressing. Yeah. Like I said, I just felt stagnant. So
Is there something at Ready that you helped develop that you still kind of like point to where you're like, hey, see that? I helped make that.
dude, I've worked on so much over the years that like, I guess I'm kind of jaded with that as well.
Yeah.
Like countless numbers of exhausts, like turbo kits, intercoolers, like all types of stuff. Towards the end, I was doing a lot of CAD design and small part stuff. Yeah, it kind of just became the normal
It all
thing, I guess, to
all
me.
blurs.
Yeah.
Any plans to get back into photography full time? I mean, your Instagram feed is littered with some banger shots.
It's photography was never really, like I kind of got into it quite a bit, but it was never really like a career path. It's just more of like a hobby and like something I did on the side and just
Yeah.
to have fun and be creative or whatever. And just I feel like if you were to make that into work, it kind of takes the fun out of it.
Can confirm.
Yeah, so just
done does that.
Yeah, I just kind of wanted to keep it for what it was, and still enjoy it when I can. Yeah.
What are you still rocking for gear? I know we talked a little bit before the show about it, but I know you've got a Canon.
So I mean, yeah, I have an old 5D Mark II.
I have one of those right there.
Yeah, mine's sitting right here. But
nice.
I moved over to Sony's, man. Like so right now I got a Sony A7R2. That's like my favorite. Yeah, because I mean, dude, you could throw 50 mil on there and just crop it and doesn't lose any quality. So
great low light, awesome variable frame rate stuff.
Yeah.
Like,
and I mean, I got it cheap. I definitely like something newer, but that's not. There's other things that I would invest my money into first before that. Like I said, it's just for fun, and I got it for a deal. So
yeah. The Sony stuff. I'm still a weird Panasonic guy, but if I was gonna make a swap, it'd be over to Sony's. I've always just personally found that like their blacks are like incredible. Like of Sony cameras, blacks and whites are like incredible. But I don't know. I always feel like they look the same. Same thing with Canons though. Mm-hmm. Like the skin, you'll always see like a perfect skin tone with a Canon, but then you get like the weird shit where it's like, the Panasonic or the Nikon, and you're like, ooh, hang on, this looks different.
Yeah.
Maybe it's just me. I don't know if I'm getting
I haven't really tried anything else, I guess.
Yeah.
It's just more of like whatever I could get is what I used. Like I've never really been like die hard like this or that. It's just, hey, I could get this cheap. It's good. Cool. I'll use it. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair. I mean, there's that's fairly liberating too. Just because it's like you're not beholden to. You're like, I'm just here to take photos. I don't care what I'm doing.
Yeah, that's what I mean. That's kind of like the approach I take with everything. I mean, just whatever I can get and use that works. Like, I'll make it work. So
yeah. So for a guy who is constantly listening to music, what is your current jam right now? Like every time I see you, you always have headphones in.
Always.
Always.
Dude, there's not like it's the same thing with like the snacks, dude. Like it's
something new.
Every day is something different.
Do you just
come across something new?
Go on Spotify and just like random shuffle? Like, is there
that, or like like one of my other homies, Rithi, he's real big into music too. He's probably the only other person that I know that has more minutes on Spotify than me. They do like the end of year thing.
Man, I want to see those stats.
He was the only person that like, and he killed me. So this year I'm trying to beat him. That's my goal. That's how I like, dude, always. So. But yeah, dude, just whatever sounds cool. Like,
is there an artist right now that like anybody listening at home that like, you're like, shit, like this person's not getting any play, or like you've stumbled on recently that you're like, this is something, I don't know, something that struck you? Like I come from like a lot of metal and punk and stuff like that. So for me, like, you know, it's going to be a little bit different. Not a lot of people are going to fall into my end, but
it's hard to say because like, dude, anybody that knows me and like knows my music taste, like, dude, it's so broad that like,
yeah,
it's more of like, I can suggest music for so many different types of people based off of what kind of music you listen to. Oh, okay, cool. You should check this out. Blah, 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 blah. Kind of narrow it down that way. But I kind of need to get a feel of like, you know, what they're into, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. Do you venture into like metal or punk at all? Is that
when I was younger, not so much anymore, but you know, I'm not opposed to it. It's just for me, like I guess personally, what I'm listening to really just depends on what I'm feeling that day. I guess you know what's fitting the vibe. So yeah.
Do you build out like playlists and stuff for days where you're like, this is? I don't know if you're like a custom playlist person or.
It depends. Yeah, I mean, I got all types of playlists, but the only time I'll really like build out like a playlist for something is more just like on the plane. So I can download it and you know don't have to deal with like plane Wi-Fi or whatever. So it's like at least I'll have some music for the plane. Yeah.
Are you primarily listening to music when you're flying, or do you do the movie or book thing or?
So the way it goes, like I'll have you know charged AirPods when I leave the house in the morning, and I'll be listening to music all throughout the airport. You know, when I'm checking in, waiting at the gate, grabbing drinks, whatever, get on the plane. And then once the AirPods like die or like, you know, it gives that little like tone, then I'll put them away, watch a movie. Once the movie's done, then back to the music.
What generation of AirPods do you have?
They're the Pro Gen 2s, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm always curious, like I'm not an audiophile, but I'm always curious people's selection. I'm all Android, so I go Samsung with everything. Although I am cursing my Samsung monitor right now, but as a whole other can of worms. Could be a Mac display. I'm sure it would have its own issues, but yeah.
They're just convenient, I guess. I mean, I think that's with anything, you know, like if you have a Samsung phone, then you're going to stick with the Samsung stuff just because they're, you know, the seamless integration stuff. So,
yeah. So what do you got coming up? Like what's the next couple of months look like for you? We've got, this will be coming out right before Seattle.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, so next week leaving for Seattle. I just booked the next Japan flight. So basically do Seattle. I'll get back that Sunday and then Tuesday, heading back out to Japan. Yeah.
Jesus.
And then actually
that's wild.
Yeah. So Japan, then home for, what was that? 1, 2, 3 weeks, and then out to Utah.
Nice.
Yeah, so
I think
that's
nice.
The longest break so far. Yeah.
Wow.
That after this last Japan trip, I think this is gonna be my last, at least for judging, trip to Japan, because I think Lantain is gonna do the final round for FD Japan at Okayama. Okay. So if he doesn't, for some reason, make it to that, then I'll fill in. But I think the plan right now is for him to do that last one.
Yeah. That's a lot. That's a ton of travel.
Yeah.
And those flights are not short.
Definitely not. But I mean, it's I didn't think I would get used to them, but now it's kind of like once you accept it and kind of know how it goes, it kind of just becomes the norm. Where it's like, you know, the first couple of times you're just like, oh, you know, starting to get like jittery and like, yo, I need to get out of this plane. But now you already know what to expect. So once you kind of just accept that, it is what it is. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I've only done, my longest flights have just been to Europe, and I've got Germany coming up right after Seattle. And I'm like,
Germany.
Iron Drift King. Pretty excited about that.
Nice. Yeah. I want to do a Euro trip next year. Yeah. We're actually just talking about that at the coffee shop today.
If you can, honestly, ice drifting in Norway, that is the bucket list. I was very lucky to do that this year, and it was just like I'd been ice drifting before, and I'd been to Norway before, but doing both of those things was just incredible. I was like, holy shit! Like this is it. I'm here.
That
I'm doing
looks
the thing.
like pretty awesome for sure. Yeah, I've seen like Asmo's videos, like jumping the Supras, like dude.
Yeah. And it's true, man. That's how they drive. Like
and
it's
nuts how much grip it looks like those cars have. Like it kind of doesn't make sense. But with the studded tires, I guess, you know.
Yeah, big studs. They're all NA Supras too. Like they're not making a ton of jam, but like you don't need to. You really don't. Yeah. That's definitely Japan's on my bucket list. Anything like left to check off the drifting list?
Drifting.
Like I want to go down to like I want to
do like Gatville and like all those types of events, like the Europe stuff. But other than that, like US and Japan, I guess
you got it covered pretty good.
Yeah, kind of just used to it now. Yeah.
I think doing the Middle East, going to one of those is that's up there too. Just to experience it.
Actually, yeah,
like just
Middle
to be
East,
there.
That'd be dope. They get rowdy out there, man. Like they're always seems like they're always just trying to blow up their cars, dude. Anti-lag, and they're like just smashing limiter. Yeah.
Have you seen those nuts. Like the dune racing they do, like the dune hill climbs? Where it's like,
dude, I send those videos to the homies all the time.
It's like 2,000 horsepower twin turbo V8s with like open turbos just sucking in sand, and they're like, "Yep, cool, one run."
There's like they're like going up the hill, and there's like a crowd of people, and like they're not letting off. They're just like gonna go right through those dudes.
I know. It's like the old Group B rally days where like the spectators are part of the sport. Like they're just moving pylons.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah. We gotta do it. I think. We gotta. Somebody's got to make like the ultimate drifting bucket list where it's like, here are all the big events like across the world.
Yeah, like hit these, like just boom, hit this route and.
Like people like what people do with like with Route 66, but it's just for drifting. Like, cool. If you plan your entire year
peel
around
off
this,
the sticker for each one you go to and everything.
Exactly. Yeah, like an advent calendar or something just for drifting. Yeah, maybe I'll try and like plan that out for next year. I'm not going to do it. I don't have that. Like, I'm not. You know, I'm not making that much money on the podcast.
Real expensive. Yep.
Yeah. Maybe
travel's not cheap.
We'll like pitch it to like the Discovery Channel or like Moto Trend or something, and like. Hey, it's like
someone will pay for it.
Someone will pay for it. That's it.
If you find someone, let me know,
dude. This is a co-idea at this point. I think it's you and I. We
travel on someone else's dime. That's the dream right there.
That's the dream, right? Like, yeah, it's all this stuff sounds great until you got to pay for it. But hey, what's another $1,000, right?
There you go.
Sick. Well, I'm stoked we got to do this, man.
Dude.
I'm gonna try not to bug you guys too much in the booth anymore.
Anytime you have questions, no worries. But
I think
I've
found back the fuck up. I get it. Yeah. No, it's been good. You like everyone's been very welcoming. I'm trying to find time to spend like at least half a day with every part of what's going on there. Like you said, all the different things. Like I got to shadow Lorette for a day. I've kind of hung out with production for a little bit. I've, spent some time with the camera guys, like trying to like truly grasp every moving part. So
it's a lot, man.
It's a lot, but no, I really appreciate obviously like you coming on here, but like what you do, the transparency that we're getting out of both this and then hopefully what we're able to produce moving forward.
I'm definitely, like what we talked about, I'm hoping, like you said, can't promise anything, but hoping in sometime in the future, we can start elaborating on a lot of these calls and getting more in depth on the back end of things, I guess.
I think everybody seems to be on board with it. It's just the logistics and that's it. Like, I think we came to a couple of really good ideas at the end of St. Louis, and maybe it's try and make a demo version of that in Seattle to maybe have it ready for
proof of concept or something.
Yeah. I think we need to. And I mean, without breaking the fourth wall, like for anybody listening, if you guys have an idea of even if it's a show that already exists in a different sport where they break down this information, like I watch a lot of F1, so like I look at that and like, how do they do it? How do they produce these shows? Like they're kind of the pinnacle of motorsports media.
Sure.
So, why can't we not steal, but like take inspiration from what they're doing and then just give it the
100%.
FD flair, right? Like,
but then, and that's the thing is like, drifting is so different than any other motorsport too.
I
So
know.
it's like trying to implement, like there are like some cool ideas, but you can't necessarily always like translate that directly over. Like
I know.
it's gotta be adapted
Like,
somehow.
There's no like post show for figure skating judges, is there?
Yeah.
Like,
Not that but
Right?
I don't follow figure skating, so
no, you don't. Neither do I.
not much.
But like, yeah, I don't know of a judge sport where like they have a post event explanation of why they judge things the way they do. So it's hard to develop a way of making it happen. So I don't know. We'll figure something out. We need to. I think there's enough super nerds out there like us that would love that, right? Like, I don't know about you, but if we weren't doing this, we weren't in the jobs we were doing, like I would still be looking for a show like that where I could get those explanations.
Yeah.
So
no, for sure.
maybe
There's I mean, you see it a lot in the chat too, like
yeah.
There's people that are pretty passionate about drifting.
Oh yeah, they are.
Yeah, so I think you're on the right path. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll figure something out. But cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let you get back to your night. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm glad we got
Appreciate
the
you.
internet stuff all figured out. We'll have another show. It's all
halfway
good.
through.
It's all good. It happens, man. Like I said, there's been worse. There's been worse ones. Dude, Chelsea's internet was brutal. There's like a storm going on in Florida during his call. Yeah, his light fell down halfway through the show. It was amazing.
Shit.
Yeah, so sick.
Cool,
cool.
man.
And
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And for everybody watching at home, thank you. If you are listening, definitely at least check out the YouTube section that we kind of go through that, because that view, even for a minute or so, is so massive. So cool.
Cool, man.